Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Dartmouth School Committee to order for Monday, January 30th, 2017. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'd like to remind you that this meeting is being videotaped by Dartmouth High School for future broadcasts on the Dartmouth High School YouTube channel, the DCTV YouTube channel, Dartmouth Community Television, and also I just learned from Mr. Parati tonight that for our viewing audience here and at home, if you do come on property, we do now have the capability to, for people who are hearing impaired, we have a headset for those people that may be hearing impaired that Mr. Parati can loan to you so you can clearly hear all of our wonderful voices. So moving forward, just make yourselves aware of that. Roll call, Mrs. Boucher.
Mr. Newman?
Yep.
Dr. Caracolis? Here. Dr. Jenkins?
Here.
Mr. Oliver?
Here. And that is it. Just so everyone's aware, our colleague, Mr. Garth, is actually attending a meeting with other town officials in regards to the possible purchase of the Allendale property by the town. So that's where Mr. Garth is. He's representing the school department this evening. Just a reminder, I think I forgot, if you have any cell phones, electronic devices, we ask you to silence those at this time. At this time, we've allotted 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak on any of tonight's agenda items. So if you see something on the agenda you would like to comment, now's the time to do so. I'll take that as a no. Thank you. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the regular session minutes of January 9th, 2017.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Noon, second by Dr. Jenkins on the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mrs. Boucher just made me aware that the minutes, regular session and executive session minutes of December 12th are still being transcribed. Hopefully we'll have those in the next meeting or so. Next up, we have our consent agenda items you should have received in your packets. A request for Dartmouth High School Youth and Government Club to attend the Model Government Conference in Boston on March 2nd through the 4th, as well as a request for DECA students to attend State Career Development Conference in Boston on March 9th through the 11th. Any problem with taking those together? Any comments or questions in regards to the contents you received?
Mr. Chairman, just if you look at the DECA, what the students did, how many students we have and where they placed in different activities and classes, like the job performances, it's a wonderful showing. It's
Agreed.
usual that our students, it's not easy. I know I mentioned it before, that a few times I have judged those activities and that, and it is, the students come very well prepared.
The DECA students always amaze me at their presentations.
I mean, our youth and government students, they're doing with legislation is fantastic.
Agreed.
Motion we approve both of these.
My comment is, I just appreciate...
Well, can we second it first?
Second, didn't it?
Discussion.
I just appreciated all what I thought was extra material that told us a lot more about what they're going to be doing and their goals and the information that both groups gave us.
No, agreed. There was a good amount of information in the packets, really explaining thoroughly. Any other comments, discussion? So I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Dr. Karafotis on the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, and best of luck to those two groups. Next up, I see that our student rep, Stacy, arrived. So welcome. Good evening, Stacy. And I'll turn it over to you for any updates from the high school and from our student body.
Hi. So at the high school, actually last week, the cheer team came back from Texas from the national competition, and this was national, and they were 9th place out of everyone there, so that was an amazing accomplishment for us and for Dartmouth.
Excellent.
Congratulations to them. Also, the high school is bringing back TED Talks, so this is when a number of students are going to be working with Ms. True and Souza to put on TED Talks about a different type of topic. And the theme this year is your piece of the puzzle. So I know there's students that are doing it about their passion. Some students are doing it about technology, music, a range of things. And the students will be presenting them in the auditorium at the high school on March 8th during the day. And teachers will be able to sign up their classes to go view the TED Talk. So I think that's a really great educational experience for the students here at Dartmouth High School. Also, there's a new policy in the high school library, and it's been really successful. Basically, second semester, we've now moved to making the library a quiet space like it should be. Usually at Dartmouth High, like in the morning, students will just hang out in the library, and it's become more of a hangout space instead of a work area. But now it's required that students get their agenda book signed. So it's been really successful. We just started it this semester, and we found that students are able to, the library is more conducive to work. So that's been really exciting. Just one more thing, the National Honor Society next month is going to the Dartmouth Council on Aging on February 14th, Valentine's Day, for the annual Valentine's Day dance with all the elderly members there. And so that's always a great annual project that they put on, and I know the community there is really thankful for that. So yeah.
Awesome.
That's about it
Lots
right
of
now.
good things happening.
Yeah.
Glad to see that the library's back to
Yeah.
somewhat of a
Yeah.
conducive learning environment.
Yeah, now we made the cafeteria the hangout spot in the morning. So it's been working out.
Okay. Excellent. Any questions for Stacy? Thank you very much, Stacy.
No problem.
And next up, under new business, I'm going to turn it over to our superintendent of schools, Dr. Gifford, for
All right.
update on her mid-cycle.
All right, thank you. So I gave you just a brief document that contains what you will also find in your drive. Did you get one?
I got one.
Okay, okay. So I'm going to review some of that, and I did send you another invite to the Google Drive, which
Got
has
it.
the evidence related
Got
to
it.
these particular things, but I don't have
Can
it.
you got it?
I got it.
I thought this would be easier for you tonight, for me to just review some of the highlights for my goals and the progress that we have made so far relative to my 3 SMART goals. So I'll briefly go over those. Under professional practice, if you recall, the goal was to really help lead and support the leadership team through, to become stronger as a team relative to the educator evaluation system. So some of the work that we have continued with since last year has been to every one of our, as you recall, last year we had a lot of professional development on that. So this year so far we have, during our leadership meeting during the summer, as well as our DLT district leadership team meetings after that, we continue to have educator evaluation on our agenda. We've done things such as video clips where we look and analyze what's happening in a classroom, go over some joint feedback together. Early on, we worked together and came up with consensus on some of the strong areas where, actually we took it from our professional development last year, and we also asked our staff to do it, the buildings did as well. What are some of the main areas that if you were really going to impact student learning that you would be looking at? So we kind of came to consensus around those. This year, we also developed some common questions that we would decide as evaluators. We wanted to ask some of our staff during our feedback sessions to kind of probe deeply into the teaching and learning. So we agreed on some of those questions about formative assessment, perhaps, or what would the expectations be for student learning, et cetera. We have looked at some sample feedback that has come from like an audit, if you will, anonymous audit of some of what we have done already, looking at how we critique each other and how we can get better at that. We're also looking at the book called Leverage Leadership by Paul Bambrick-Santio, and it's really a book about improving schools systemically. So we've used a couple of chapters of that so far, and we'll be continuing that work. So a lot is still going on with the educator evaluation. Under the student learning goal, if you recall when we met last time, actually Ms. Roy, Ms. Oliveira, and I have a joint student learning goal, and it is around our math work. So we've done a lot of work so far with that. Some of it has been, I think one of the big things is to have started some professional development with the Capit Center at UMass, so they've revised that. So we had those folks come in, talk with our high school math team to start, and invite folks to participate in some professional development around that. So that just started. The new math teacher leader for the high school math department has been also really gathering lots of data around student failure or pass rates, what kind of courses they may have been taking, how long perhaps the course was it a half year, was it a full year, those kinds of things. So with that data, he's working with the math department on looking at that data a little bit more. We have also met with them, and as Ms. Oliveira, of course, is leading the curriculum development around that, and they're doing a lot of work there. We've offered to have them kind of get a stipend or whatever to do some more curriculum mapping, et cetera. So that work is going on. We do have we established the co-taught classes. As you know, we've established this year a full-year algebra course at the high school. So all of that came into play this year to try to look at, because we looked at data about the students that were not taking like a full year and the difference in the pass-fail rate, et cetera. So we've established that for this year, and we'll see how that goes. And as I said, curriculum mapping is underway in math as well as all of our other topics, our other contents. Most recently, we also met actually today with a sixth grade math team. So we're starting to look at that vertical work a little bit more, because we do have the proposal to, or the plan to put vertical teams in place as well. So today was the first day. We had met with the admin at the middle school last week and to talk about this, and then we met with the sixth grade today. So our future meetings will be the 7th and 8th to kind of give them the lay of the land and the plan of what we need to do, and they'll be coming up with some ideas of how to possibly compact some of their work. I know it's harder and harder, to be able to establish a pathway through the high school where kids can really have a good pathway to get to calculus. And that's one of our things we're really looking at. Did I miss something there? Oh, yes, that's a good point. We also established this year some support for students that were struggling. I did put an email, actually, correspondence from Gary Lahr, who's the the teacher leader at the high school, where he provided the staff with some data on students that were allowed to participate in a block of tutorial based on some of their success or not success, and now how they've been doing with that. So kids can get academic support provided by our teacher leader in that. So that's some of the work that's going on in math. And again, that was our student learning goal, joint student learning goal. The district improvement goal was really to facilitate the strategic plan, which pretty much sums up everything we're doing. So I'll go over a few of those. The first one that you see is teaching and learning, and it's kind of down about middle of the way. I should have set it up a little bit better, but so the first objective, as you know, is teaching and learning, and the first initiative was really about curriculum mapping. So basically, I will just say that that's well underway. Scope and sequences and curriculum mapping in many, many departments, as well as through our elementary schools. As you recall, we have our Curriculum Instruction Assessment Team, or CIA team as we call, who've worked really, really hard with Tracy Oliveira since last year, and they continue that work this year, aligning curriculum, creating model units. Some folks are working with DESE on that, and then sharing that out with their grade level partners to ensure that we continue to try to create curriculum, articulate curriculum, and teach curriculum that all students in every elementary school, middle, high school receive the same access and equity to common curriculum. Our library and instructional tech teachers have just started working on some digital literacy curriculum. On the last half day they worked with our media folks. And as I said before, we do have a vertical team posting and because we can work in our grade levels, but we have to ensure that that's vertically aligned. Let's see, what else did I want to mention in here? I guess that's okay for curriculum right now. Okay, the second initiative under teaching and learning really looks at our assessment calendars, et cetera. And I know, once again, Tracy's been working really hard to try to ensure that we're not over-assessing and really put out calendars that give us good data, but yet we aren't overdoing it so that we're redundant, et cetera. So she works hard on that, putting out the elementary calendar, trying to get the scores back. We look at it at district, CPT teams, et cetera, will be also look at that as a support for our tiered instruction. So that's been happening. Let's see, what else might I want to do? Significant focus, of course, I just mentioned this at the end of that, with the assessment, of course, with our social emotional PD, and that will come up throughout this document, of course, because that's one of our strands, but also how are we assessing our mental health issues. Okay, Initiative 3 under teaching and learning is our K through 12 STEM program, to enhance and expand our K through 12 STEM program, et cetera. And I think we're pretty happy about what's been happening here, especially with the latest edition of the iSTEM clubs, which, as we told you last week, or whatever it might have been, that has been a big hit, big hit. I was able to drop by some of that this week, and it was just incredible to see the kids engaged in that. So some of the work we've been doing around that is we've supplied our elementary schools with weather stations that is being used in the grade 3 curriculum area. Obviously, we've implemented the hour of code, and that expanded across the district a little bit more this year. As I mentioned about the CIA teams, they're now starting to work on their science units, because we know that's been revised. The math curriculum has been revised, so that will be bringing more elementary science. And some of the schools have implemented what they call STEM block, so that I was again able to visit when I think it was at Potter, that teachers talked about that and how they bring the kids in specifically to talk about some kind of design, engineering, thinking project, and that kind of thing. And we've also were able to provide more resources for our middle school technology engineering classes, and as you might have seen in the newspaper, they entered into one of their first competitions this year with like a robotics, Legos kind of thing. The fourth initiative under District Improvement Goal in Teaching and Learning, as stated under our strategic plan, was to enhance the K through 12 math program. And again, if you just revert back to what I just discussed about working on vertical curriculum, vertical alignment, really ensuring a pathway to calculus at the high school, and the work that we've begun with those teams, that's redundant. So you can just look back at that. Our second objective from the strategic plan is access and equity. That's on page 5. And the first initiative was to increase, I have it backwards here. Let's see. Yeah, I had it backwards. We're really looking at our technology and our infrastructure and our software and assessments, et cetera, to be able to ensure that all students have access to the curriculum, they have access to enriching activities. So some of the samples that I put in here, you will see some things from, I had a lot of information from the middle school as far as technology and the different projects that the kids are involved in at that school. So we've put some of those in. And then some of the very significant progress that has been made. As you know, we reorganized the tech department, and of course that's very important, because if we don't have working equipment, our teachers can get very frustrated when they try to perform some activity with the kids. So you recall we did that last year. That's working out very, very well. We're very pleased with our folks that have come on board. We've continued to fund technology, and again, thanks to the town, of course, as well as this committee, for being able to fund continuing to, on our capital improvement plan, fund the technology infrastructure that we need. We also have, the tech department under Jonathan Galashaw have really created a nice articulated inventory now. We have a real concise document that tells what we have in place so that we can work to ensure a good replacement plan over time. And we are most thankful for our new instructional technology teachers who we added last year. As you saw a couple weeks back, some of the work that those folks have been doing, and that's just been able to once again provide access and equity across our elementary schools for that. And one thing we wanted to mention about technology, of course, was with our emergency management system, our emergency management plan that we've developed and continue to work with, we added Mutual Link, which is a communication system with the police department, et cetera, and enhanced security systems such as cameras. Most recently, the last week or so, we added new panic buttons at the middle and high school, which were missing before. So again, that's under access and equity, but it's really about how technology and promotes that throughout the district. Okay, so the second one under that, our initiative, which you know we talk a lot about, is about social emotional learning. So we have done a lot of work with this. I'm going to mention a couple of things, and then you can certainly, I'll mention 3 things right here. The continuation, and luckily we are able to visit a lot of the PBIS rallies that happen in our schools, so the strong focus on that has been a real success, where folks are getting pride cards in the middle school, rare cards, even they recognize staff, rare staff member of the month, PBIS staff member of the month, et cetera. So that's being implemented with fidelity across the district with significant progress. We have our principals, I wanted to mention this, continuing to work with our common planning time with our staff, because again, when you have that time in your schedule, you're able to focus in on students as a team. You'll be able to target instruction. You're able to talk about tiered instruction and refer students onward if you need. So without that planning time, how can you have even address social, emotional, never mind academic strengths and weaknesses? So we're very happy to be able to continue that. As you recall, our PD strands, we have one of them is for our social emotional. So every year we've been offering professional development around that, and samples in here included some work with Jessica Minahan, which many of our schools have had come in as a behaviorist that has been well received. Another sample was some PD on anxiety disorders, and of course the entire district is undertaking or engaging in suicide prevention. So just all of those things, never mind that the work that our psychologists, our outreach workers, et cetera, continue to do every day in our schools along that social emotional piece. I wanted to mention, I put here that you'll see an email from lead teacher Gary Lahr, again, talking about the academic support class for students in math at the high school level, and I thought that was important to show how we're supporting all students. And then most recently, we have had some professional development with our high school and middle school folks with the BRIGHT program, and it's bridging resiliency through, with Transition for Youth. So we have you might know, we have a good program with Richard Blair at the middle school, who really tries to support kids that are struggling behaviorally, some social emotional issues, and they can attend his class to be able to infiltrate back into the general setting. And so we're trying to replicate that program uniquely, because every school has their unique needs, but really grow that program at the high school level as well, to try to capture some of those kids that need more support. So Beth Townsend has been able to bring in this group that's been able to meet with our folks from the middle and high school, audit our programs, review our programs, and then offer suggestions, recommendations on how to even enhance it and make it better. So we're still working on that. That's a work in progress. And finally, our third objective under our strategic plan is community engagement. And our first initiative is really about our website, and even though it's not up, we've done a lot of work around it. So if you recall, at the end of last year into the beginning of this year, one of our subcommittees worked on this, and with Jonathan Galashaw, they picked a model new website facade, and it's being built. We've had some PD on it with our admin team, as well as some other folks who will be users, such as secretaries maybe at a building that are going to then run, put things up on their website. So we had an initial PD on that to kind of just see it quickly. Since then, the admin team has worked at it, just offering suggestions on how to tweak it, et cetera. So that is in the process, and because it became so late, we decided it's probably better to wait until the summer and New Year to launch it for the new year. We hoped it would have been this year, but we had a data person we were trying to hire, et cetera. So I have to say Jonathan's been extremely buried under data. So that is, we're hoping for that for the beginning of the new year. And just, again, I think the overall communication, this was part of that goal, has really improved, once again, with our Facebook page, especially our Facebook page, and folks have really been taking to that and really happy about that. So, and then the last one under community engagement is just really about what it says, community engagement, partnerships with local groups, et cetera, other than what the schools are doing, which they do every day, partnering with people like the Y, or whatever it might be, community members that come in and do presentations, et cetera. We also, as you know, have continued our work with the Healthy Dartmouth Committee, which also continues our participation with our COPE group, which is town folks are included in that, as well as beyond our town, the DA's office, et cetera. Thanks to Mr. Parati's class and the growing media presence we have, we've been able to improve our broadcasting of shows and from the high school media team. And we already talked about, we had a YMCA come, and as you know, we've expanded our partnership with them. And as I just mentioned with math, we have a new partnership with the Committe Center at UMass, and thanks to Miss Roy reaching out to them, because she's a math person. So that's it in a nutshell for progress on goals. I'll take any comments on that.
Thank you, Dr. Gifford.
You're welcome.
I appreciate all the evidence that you provided in the Google Shared Drive, copious amounts of documents and evidence. I'll turn it over to any of my colleagues for comments or questions.
And I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. There is a lot of, to go through and look at it, there was a tremendous amount of work going on in the district. Very nice. And thank you. Very pleased.
Thank you, Mr. News. Dr. Karafotis?
Well, I feel the same way. I do have a question if I can find it.
That is me, I can hardly see my name.
The tutorial block you spoke of, that's at the high school,
Yes.
right? Now, is that just for math, or does that go into other?
That right now is for math.
It's for math, okay.
There's
Speak on that?
there's a regular tutorial block for students who have needs, special needs, but from there, we were able to put in a math teacher,
Yeah.
so we could pull from those students from that group who had need, because the schedule was already complete at the time.
Oh, good. Now, the STEM program at the elementary school, is that going to run again? Because I heard, it's my understanding that you had more children than spaces.
Yes. Our plan is to offer another session after this one's done, for those students that are on a waiting list.
Okay. Well, I was very impressed with everything that I read online and on the Google, and I appreciate all the hard work that's going on in the system.
Thank you.
So thank you.
It's a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Karafotis. Dr. Jenkins?
No, it was a little bit of a crazy weekend on
Yeah.
campus, so I didn't have a chance to get through all of this. I'm definitely interested in learning about the pathways for math. I mean, going sort of through that experience, sitting through the class selection with my own child who's making that transition. And I wonder if the plan is eventually to move us to Calc BC, or is the plan to end with AB, or do we not know that yet? Where we're going, because right now we only offer AB, correct?
Right.
Do we
It's
not
a
know
little-
yet?
It's a little dependent on the schedule.
Okay.
Anything else? I'll just sum everything up with, I think there's been a lot of work that's taken place over the past 6 months, as well as the past year and a half. Some of the keynotes that I just took down, all the work that's gone into this whole social emotional learning, as well as with my background, I'm very pleased with the reorganization of the technology department, and things seem to be going a little bit smoother, as well as having 2 tech integration specialists on board at the elementary level. I love to see, the work they're doing and some of the evidence that you provided, so I think that's great. And I'm also pleased to hear that we're providing more professional development to the administrators on the new evaluation tool. I think, the amount of work, just from your point of view, the amount of everything that you've had to put into it, as well as all the teachers and staff that are evaluated under the new evaluation tool, that it's copious amounts of work, copious amounts of submitting evidence, and I think it's imperative that it's used properly and with the proper feedback. So, and that starts with proper professional development. So I think all the things that you hit on tonight is spot on, and I look forward to the next 6 months.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Gifford.
you.
Next up on the agenda, we have the update on the FY18, FY22 capital improvement plan. Mr. Kiley couldn't be here with us this evening. He's still under the weather. We wish him well. But this was just kind of, if we had any comments or questions, I believe, moving forward, I think, I think we're fine with it. Next up, we're going to turn it back over to Dr. Gifford for the superintendent's update.
I'm only mentioning one thing, because I think we just had a whole lot going on. I just wanted to mention that I asked Ms. Roy to look over the forms. You recall the field trip forms? So she's worked on that. We think we have it handled, just so it'll be more definitive of where you can see how much the students will be paying, et cetera. So we have that aligned. We've sent those out, I believe, today to the principals, so they can share with their staff. And I think that was all on that, right? Yeah, just the forms. And we're going to have February 8th?
Yep.
Subcommittee meeting on the policy to
Sponsorship.
look at that sponsorship piece that
Okay.
we talked about last time. And I did give, we drafted some guidelines for that, and I did ask, I gave that to Walter Smith to just take a peek at for us. So we can talk more about that on February 8th.
Perfect.
That's just a follow-up from last meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Gifford. And also as a follow-up under the report of the chair, I believe we have a budget subcommittee meeting scheduled as well for February 7th, which we will be hearing from the central admin as far as requests, Dr. Garafotis and I. And if there's anything that the two of you would like us to take back to the subcommittee, just let us know ahead of time. Other than that, I'd just like to remind everyone that on February 13th, as you probably have read on social media, as well as in Dartmouth Weekly, the Standard Times, the Chronicle, that we will be having the Gidley School recognition, which will be taking place immediately before the school committee meeting at 6 o'clock in the Quinn School Auditorium. There's been a lot of work that has been put into this. The core committee is myself, Dr. Karafotis, those of you may remember Mary Lou Clark, as well as former Principal Lorraine Grander, who's been working together to put together the Gidley School recognition. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. K, but anyone having any memorabilia from Gidley, pictures, we ask you to drop it off here at Quinn's at the front office. So we look forward to that. We'll have several different speakers from the community that'll be there. A brief slide presentation. We expect it probably to take about 45 minutes. I know I've been getting lots of emails from people all over the country, as well as far away from England, that from students that were people that were formerly students at the Gidley School, just bringing up some of the memories they had. I'll be sharing some of those with you, as well as we'll embed some of those in the PowerPoint presentation, and I know Dr. K will be one of the speakers, along with several others for that evening. So I think that'll be a nice bittersweet celebration and recognition of the school. So that's it. Anything else for the good of the committee? Yes.
So I just want to follow up with that. I did talk to my colleague in the history department in her
Okay.
public history class about that. She already had projects lined up and didn't have enough enrollment to take on another project. But if we
Okay.
have the materials, hopefully we can, maybe in a future semester or an internship, have someone do something with that.
That would
So,
be great,
yeah,
because
so
I know
did-
there's also
yeah.
some talk with the Historical Society as well as the library director about putting together some.
Yeah,
kind
and
of,
we can continue to work on that. It just didn't work for this semester. Sorry.
Great, thank you. Anyone else?
Just a thanks to the Quinn School for hosting the night and being willing to take on the memorabilia. So if it gets to be a little too much, and I don't think it'll get too much, but if it does, just give us a call and we'll go through all the materials and get it out of your way. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karafotis. The next meeting is scheduled for February 13th. That will take place at 7 o'clock. A little bit of a change because the Gidley School recognition will be at 6 to 7 or right before 7 in the auditorium. And the school committee meeting will take place immediately after that, right here in this room. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose to hear a Level 3 grievance filed by the Dartmouth Educators Association and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with union and non-union personnel.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Dr. Karafotis. On the motion, any discussion? And we're not to reconvene. Chair hearing none, roll call, Ms. Boucher.
Yes.
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 Go Pats.
Go Pats is right. Meeting is adjourned. Have a great night, everyone.